My name is Roger Petrie. I'm with the Department of Energy's Office of Environmental Management here in Oak Ridge. And just to make sure everybody's in the right room, this is a workshop about the Natural Resource Damages Agreement and grant process for the Oak Ridge Reservation. If none of that sounds familiar to you, you may want to go out and look at the sign again. But looks like everybody's in the right place. Really do appreciate you all coming out. We're going to have Debbie Duran with the state of Tennessee. She will speak in a little bit. She is with us virtually. Like I said, I'm Roger Petrie with DOE. We have Skip Markham, who is with the Tennessee Valley Authority. And then the last part of the presentation will be Jennifer Jones with Tennessee's Department of Environment and Conservation. She is works their grant application process in the website. And she will be the one actually probably telling you the most about actually how to apply for these funds. This is a great time for us. We have worked literally decades to get to this point finally where we've achieved this agreement with the Natural Resource Damages trustees. And we signed the agreement back in earlier this year, and almost immediately the funds were transferred. They now reside with TDEC. And the Board of Trustees, the Trustee Council will evaluate the grant applications as they come in and decide, which ones get it and not. And hopefully, one thing we do want to do is try to provide feedback so that if you do make an application and it's not approved, we'll give you feedback about why. And so maybe, this is not a one-time shot. This money hopefully will last for several years. We'll go through several cycles of applications. So maybe you don't get it on the first cycle, there'll be an opportunity to get it later on. So I am not the expert here on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this presentation over to Debbie, and she's going to run through the NRD process. What I would ask is at the end, we will have a question and answer session. So if you have any questions, just to make the flow work a little better, if you hold your questions to the end, we would appreciate it. And then we'll get into that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Debbie. And oh, thank you. Yep. If you didn't, there is a sign-in sheet on the back, on the table in the back. You can sign in later or now if you want. There is an option to put your contact information on there. What we will do with your contact information is we have a list of stakeholders so that when we have public meetings like this, we can reach out and let as many people know as possible. So if you want information about future DOE public meetings, not just NRD, but other things we're doing, you can put your contact information on there, and at some point in the future, you'll get an email from us saying, we're having some kind of public information session. So, okay, I think that's it now, right? Yep. Okay, we're good. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Debbie Duran with the state of Tennessee, and she'll do a short presentation on natural resource damages. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. I just want to make sure everyone in the room can hear me okay. Okay, thank you everyone for attending the workshop tonight. I'm really sorry I'm not able to be with you in person. I had a little accident in which I learned earlier this week I cannot fly. And so I'm not able to travel right now. So with that, I'm just going to start out by going over the workshop format. Like Roger said, I am going to do a restoration grant program overview, going over the background for the process, the restoration project selection procedure highlights, and then give you kind of a timeline for the estimated grant cycle for this cycle of the proposals. Then my colleague Jennifer will do the grants management system overview and a how-to. And finally, we'll have time for questions and wrap-up period. Certainly, if you don't get your questions answered tonight, or if you have other questions afterwards, feel free to either email me directly at debbie.duran@tn.gov, or the ORR restoration at tn.gov email. So with that, just want to note that the purpose of the workshops, which we will have 3, this is the first one, and it is to provide information and assistance with the grant program procedure that is outlined in the grant program manual. That grant program manual was previously public noticed, and you will find responses to public comments that were gathered during the public notice period included as the appendix to the manual itself. So we know that contamination was released from the Oak Ridge Reservation and that it negatively impacted natural resources and resource services. So some examples of resources were fish, wildlife, surface water, sediment, soil, and groundwater. An example of resource services included nutrient cycling, provision of habitat, recreational fishing, and drinking water. The goal of natural resource damage assessment and restoration, or what we say when we pronounce the acronym is NRDA, is to restore natural resources equivalent to what was lost. Under CERCLA, natural resource damage assessments are conducted by government officials. Those are federal or state governments or Indian tribes, designated to act as trustees to bring claims on behalf of the public for the restoration of injured natural resources. The trustees for the Oak Ridge Reservation are the State of Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, the Tennessee Valley Authority, the United States Department of Energy, and the United States Department of the Interior through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So this portion of the restoration is dealing with what we call the Phase 2 Natural Resource Damage Assessment and Restoration. So the first phase, you may remember, was with regard to the Lower Watts Bar operable unit and the Black Oak Ridge Conservation Easement. This is what we refer to. Phase 2 is the Oak Ridge Reservation balance. It is an evaluation of terrestrial habitat within the reservation, the floodplain and aquatic habitat of a portion of the Clinch River, the floodplain and aquatic habitat of several Clinch River tributaries, and groundwater beneath and flowing off-site from the reservation. The natural resource injuries for the Oak Ridge Reservation Phase 2 are reported in the Restoration Compensation Determination Plan and Environmental Assessment that was published by the trustees in December of 2022. And that document is still available on the Information Center's website. So it documents injury and loss to aquatic resources, terrestrial resources, groundwater resources, and recreational uses. So like Roger said, the state of Tennessee and DOE signed an administrative order on consent with Fish and Wildlife Service and TVA concurrent on July 8th of this year. It provides $42 million to compensate for natural resource losses. The trustees will oversee use of the $42 million to select and fund projects that are described in the Restoration Compensation Determination Plan and Environmental Assessment. So this slide gives you an example of the resource and resource use-based restoration that is carried forward into the restoration project selection procedure grant program manual. And these are our strategic investment areas. So for ecological, the trustees are looking for projects under the categories of habitat creation, habitat restoration or enhancement, habitat preservation. For groundwater, we are looking for an improvement to groundwater recharge and quality. And for recreation, we're looking for an increase or an improvement to fishing opportunities, access, and amenities, an increase to water access, or an increase or an improvement in hiking, biking, wildlife, and natural viewing areas. So just as this slide gives examples of some of those, examples are also included in the grant program manual. Trustee site-specific restoration criteria is detailed in the Restoration Project Selection Procedure Grant Program Manual. That document was finalized on October 23rd of 2024. This is a map to the right. The yellow areas show the primary restoration hydrologic unit codes that we are looking for projects within. There are also secondary restoration HUCs that are included. There's a table in the RPSP manual that specifically names those HUCs and denotes whether they are primary or secondary. So we're looking for projects that are located within priority areas that provide long-term sustainable benefits, accounting for climate change, that increase habitat connectivity, that improve water quality to support ecological function and recreational use, projects that benefit listed species, whether federally, state listed, or at risk, and also projects that improve the public's access to and quality of recreational resources. So these are the steps in the restoration grant program. So we are currently in step 1. Pre-proposals will be accepted in TDEC's grants management system. From that began with the release of the program manual and opening of the grants management system on November 20th, and it will go until February 6th of 2025. We are in the process of holding 3 public workshops to discuss solicitation for projects in the grants management system. So there's this workshop, and then there is a workshop in Kingston on January 9th and in Clinton on January 23rd. So the format for the workshops will be the same. You're welcome to attend. Again, if you have additional questions you would like to ask us in person. So from there, we'll go to step 2. The trustees will review all pre-proposals. Applicants whose pre-proposals meet all corresponding requirements will be invited to submit a full proposal. So the trustees have intentionally designed this program to be a 2-step program as far as submission of a pre-proposal and then a full proposal, because we wanted to make sure that that people would not go to an excessive expense to submit a proposal that might not meet all the requirements. Therefore, we have a pre-proposal process, and then we'll have a full proposal invitation. The trustees will review and recommend proposals for funding based on the ranking criteria that is in the grant program manual. Step 3, the trustees will make the recommended proposals available for public review as part of a restoration plan, and we will take public comments on that. The trustees will select final projects following the public review period. And then step 4, TDEC, with consent of the trustees, will execute grant contracts with project recipients as funds allow. So I just want to go over some grant program manual important highlights for you. Projects must fit within the strategic investment areas that are listed in the grant program manual. They also must be within the geographic focus area and satisfy the goals in the grant program manual. The total grant funding for all projects selected under this request for proposals is up to $10 million. Projects must meet the 20% match requirement. So leveraging additional resources at a higher percentage receives priority consideration. In-kind leverage is allowed. It must be submitted in the proposal budget because you will be held accountable for proving that you have met your in-kind leverage if that's what you propose. Please note that compensatory mitigation for permitted impacts or corrective action for violations may not be counted toward the required match. Also, potential grantees are responsible for verifying all requirements for federal funds that may not allow matching or other uses related to this particular program. All applicants are required to submit a pre-proposal and the Title VI compliance application survey through the TDEC grants management system. And Jennifer's going to go over that system here with us in a minute. Pre-proposals must be submitted by an eligible entity as described in the grant program manual. Projects requiring permit coverage, environmental reviews, and associated consultations should pay close attention to the permit section of the grant program manual. Also, we encourage everyone to please review the response to public comments that is included as Appendix A of the grant program manual. So this is a rough estimate grant cycle timeline. So pre-proposals are due February 6th. Then we anticipate the trustees will invite submissions for full proposals in the early spring time of 2025. We will make the restoration plan available for public review, hopefully in late spring of 2025. And then we'll be ready to issue grant contracts in the summer or early fall of 2025. And that is my presentation, so I will turn it over to Jennifer Jones to talk about the grants management system itself.
Yep, we're gonna give it a shot. Do not trip on this.
I won't move.
There you are.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. My name is Jennifer Jones. I work with Debbie. I'm with the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. I am the grants assistant director. I'll go through our agenda for today. Hopefully it'll be pretty painless. I'm not sure if some of you have ever used our online grants management system, but we're going to go through a step-by-step process. I have a slideshow, and then I'm actually going to take you into the system so you can see it live. If you do have any questions, please feel free to let me know, and I will do my best to answer everything I can. First, I'm going to introduce the members of our team and our contact information in case you do have questions about the system. Next, we're going to go through the pre-grant award information. So that is going to be creating an account in the system, how to actually apply for the application. If you are awarded the grant, then we're going to go through just a couple of post-award things as far as extensions, amendments, reimbursements, things like that, just to give you an idea of what to expect. So this is a list of all of my team members. We are split up into two separate sides. So we have Savannah, Catherine, and Tasia. They are all on our grants management system side. So you may hear it called Smart Simple, GMS, grants management system. All of it is the same thing. But if you ever do have questions about the grants management system, please reach out to tdec.grants@tn.gov. That email comes to all of us, so if one of us happens to be out that day, another one can pull the email or the information. The other half of my team is Becky and Tiara. They're the ones that actually review and process the grants that are awarded, so they're the ones that send them out for signature and help get them executed in that process. So again, we have our generic emails. Smart Simples is going to be tdec.grants@tn.gov. And then if you do have questions, if you are awarded about your grant or contract and maybe a question with something that's on it, you can also reach out to tdec.contracts@tn.gov. And if we can't answer it, we'll definitely get you to someone who can. Okay, we're going to start with the pre-grant award information. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you have an account in supplier maintenance. This is something that is actually through Edison, which is a Tennessee state website. Please note this is not our website. We have zero control over it. You have to actually have a supplier ID. They may also call it an Edison ID. This is basically your registration number for the state of Tennessee. You have to go in and register with all of your bank information, your location information. If you are not registered in the system, you cannot be awarded a grant. I cannot stress that enough. And supplier maintenance can sometimes take up to 2 to 3 months to approve an account. So if you don't have one, go ahead and register. Even if you're not receiving a grant right now, it's okay to go ahead and register just to go ahead and get an ID. Make sure all of your information is correct, because if you do receive one, that's going to help speed the process up. Next is going to be setting up an account in GMS and affiliating with whatever your entity is, your organization. So the first thing you're going to go to is tdec.smartsimple.com. Once you get to that website, you're going to see the registration screen. There's a little button at the bottom that says register here. If you click on that button, it's going to take you to a login page. It's going to ask for all of your information, your email address, your phone number. It will send you an email with a password link to be able to sign up. Once you sign up and you've logged in, you will be taken to your dashboard. This is what everyone should look like. If for some reason it doesn't, or you can't log in, email us at the tdec.grants and we can get that fixed for you. The very first thing that you want to do before you do anything else in the system is go in and submit an affiliation request. If you do not do that, it is not going to link you with any organization. You're just going to be linked in a generic, not affiliated category, and nobody's going to know who you're applying on behalf of. I cannot stress enough how important that first step is, making sure you're affiliated. I don't know if we have any development districts here, but you can affiliate with more than one organization. So if you're helping someone else apply for an application, you can register with as many as you want, but you have to be affiliated before you can submit a grant. This is just going over the information I just said. Each organization is going to have one primary contact. That's usually the mayor, the head of an organization, whatever the case may be. That individual will have access to every single grant that is in the system for that organization. That is a security feature that we have. Anyone who affiliates with the organization is able to open an application on behalf of them. So we have a tester account. You'll see it here in just a little bit, called the City of Sunshine. I am the organization primary contact for that, but other users can go in, they can affiliate with the City of Sunshine, and then they can open applications on behalf of City of Sunshine, and I would still be able to see all of them because I'm the primary contact. Keep in mind that primary contact is also, for audit purposes, the only person who is allowed to sign on behalf of that organization. So if someone else needs to be able to sign, we'll go over how you can get that information in the system as well. So once you're in the affiliation box, it will give you a little screen where you can click on the binoculars to look up your organization. Please note every single city and county is already in the system. So if you're applying on behalf of one of them, please do not create a new one. If you don't find your organization in there, you can click on the Register New Organization button. Another screen will pop up that allows you to enter in all of your information. You hit Submit. It will take you back to this main screen, and you will just enter in your title, your email address, and your phone number. You'll click Submit again, and then it will take you back to your home screen. Depends on the web browser you're using. I always recommend refreshing your screen because sometimes your organization may not show up at the top. So if you know that you've affiliated but you don't see it, refresh your screen and it should show up at that point. In the top right-hand corner, you have your home button, and then you have a little button that looks kind of like a building. That is what's going to show all of the organizations that you're affiliated with. Make sure before you apply that you are connected with the correct one. So now we're going to go through the actual navigation of GMS. All right, so this is going to be your personal dashboard. When you log in, this is what you should see. Again, if you do not see this, let us know and we will get it fixed for you. Any funding opportunities that we have are going to be listed on the left-hand side under funding opportunities. There will also be a deadline of when they close. So keep in mind, you have to open it and you have to submit it prior to the end of the cycle. Because once it's closed, it's closed. So just keep that in mind. We have all of our TDEC grants in there. It's not just this one. So if you do see others, that's why. You're going to have two other sections on your dashboard. The top is going to be your applications. So the organization that you are currently looking at is going to show up in that top box. So if you have opened any applications, if you're the primary contact, or you have been linked to any applications, it's going to show up in this top box. Depending on the status, if it's one that's you're just working on, it's in draft, it's going to show up in the In Progress tab on the top. I know it's small, hard to read, sorry. The second is going to be the Active tab, so that's going to be anything that you've been approved for. And then the third tab is the Completed tab, and that's going to be any grant for your organization that you're linked to that may have closed out. The bottom section is the Requires Attention section. So that's going to be if you receive a grant award and you have activities to do, whether it's Title VI, a reimbursement, a required report, anything like that that you're working on is going to show up in that bottom section. All right, so this is going to be actually applying for your organization. So you look on the left-hand side, look at the funding opportunities, and find the one you want to select and click Apply Now. when you first open up your application, you're going to see some information at the top. You can see where it says City of Sunshine. If that says not affiliated, I need you to reach out to either us at TDEC Grants or Debbie as soon as possible. We want to get that fixed before you start processing your application. So just make sure you keep an eye on that. Also, anything that shows up in those parentheses is the organization that you are applying on behalf of. So if you notice that that's wrong, reach out, let us know, and we can go in and fix that for you. It's better to do it as soon as you can than wait until the very end to try to fix it. The next is going to be the status of your application. It's always going to start out in draft. Once it gets to a submitted status, once you're done with your application, you won't be able to change it anymore. So if you submit it and you realize, oh my goodness, I forgot to add something in, reach out, let us know. As long as it's before the end date, we can open it back up for you to add what you need in. All right, a couple things on the application. On the left-hand side, you're going to see a tab that says Main and a tab that says Notes. The Notes section will actually let you communicate with Debbie through the system or any other users that are working on this application with her. You can send her messages and she can send you messages back. What this does is it takes Outlook out of the equation. I know some people have issues with that, and it keeps everything in a clean audit file. So when audit looks at it later, it's all right here. So keep in mind that is definitely for your benefit. All right, the tabs that we have in the system, keep in mind if you are applying for different grant types, or if you have, the tabs may look a little different, but the general thing is the same. Your purpose and overview is going to be an overview of the grant. In this case, the grant manual is listed in that tab, so you guys, if you need a copy of it, can go in there and access the PDF document. There will be a timeline, eligibility, and funding tab, which is going to give you the dates, the criteria for eligibility. All of that that Debbie talked about earlier is going to be within that tab. Selection criteria, what they're looking for. Resources and contact is going to give you Debbie's information, since she is going to be the main point of contact. It is also going to list out your organization's contact information, which is how it's going to pull over to a grant if you are awarded. Take a look at it, make sure it's all right. If it's not, shoot us an email and let us know, and we can go in and fix it. Next, you're going to have the Title VI compliance. This is one, I'm going to go over this in just a little bit because I have a specific slide for it. But within this tab, it's going to ask you, have you completed a Title VI compliance application? You have to select yes or no. If you say yes, it's going to ask the date that you completed it. If you select no, it's going to say reach out to TDEC Grants. They got to open an application for you. This Title VI compliance application is a separate application, and it has to be done before you can be awarded anything from TDEC. So keep that in mind. We'll go over that more here in just a little bit, but that's what that tab is. General information is going to be general info about the grant. It may have some more contact information in there for you. Any questions, budget information, all of these tabs have information you either have to read or fill out information. Okay, the two different Title VI things. So we have Title VI compliance application, which is its own application in the system. Then we have a Title VI training certification activity, which is done within your awarded application. So in order to apply for TDEC grants, you have to have a Title VI compliance application done for your organization that has your non-discrimination policy, your LEP plan or limited English proficiency plan, a copy of your Title VI training program, and also a copy of what your organization does if there's a Title VI complaint. We do have examples within the Title VI compliance application of these documents, so if you may not have any with your organization, you can look on there and you can mirror what TDEC has. The Title VI training certification activity, this is proof that your organization is Title VI compliant. You have to have a Title VI coordinator. that's up to the organization who that individual actually is. There is a form that they have to fill out, and they are responsible for making sure that everyone in your organization is Title VI trained. We have like a 30-minute video on there that you can watch. Everybody can get a certificate, and you're done. But I cannot stress enough, you have to have everyone Title VI compliant. That's not an option. That's something that audit looks at very, very closely each time. But the certification activity, you only have to complete that if you actually receive a grant. So just keep that in mind. Next is talking about just the narrative questions. This is a general slide or a general PowerPoint that we have. They're going to change based on the grant application, but you'll just go through the tabs, and whatever questions are in there for the application, they're all pulled directly from the grant manual. So you'll be able to go through and find what you need. Random reminder, it is technology. Save your work. When you click from tab to tab, the system automatically saves, but it is technology, and I always remind everyone, click save. If you look at the save button and think, maybe I should hit save, go ahead and hit it. You're not going to mess anything up. Just go ahead and hit it. Next, we're going to talk about the budget. So within the budget and attachments tab, there is a button that says budget page and budget justification worksheet. We will go through this live in just a little bit, but this is where you're going to put in for the different categories, whether it's salaries, professional fees, how much you're wanting for your grant. I need to make sure I preface that with, that does not mean that's what you're going to receive. I know other programs, people put stuff in and it could be tweaked based on what they have to actually give out. So keep in mind you're asking for what you want, but that is subject to possibly change depending on the funds that are available. And then this is just a copy of one of the invoices that's used later on for a reimbursement. Next is the authorized signatory tab. This is what I was talking about earlier. On this tab, you'll see a red font with name or with a name. That is going to be who the system has as your primary contact. If that is not right, there's an option that says the above information is not correct. You can either select I will send the correct information to TDEC grants, or additional signers are needed, I will upload the information. Reason for this is for audit purposes, we have to have a trail of someone giving someone else permission to sign on their behalf. If you happen to go this route, please make sure that you are putting it on your organization's letterhead. Your primary contact is signing it. He or she is dating it, and they also list out the individual that they are giving permission to. You cannot say, my secretary can sign for me. We have had those come in. Anybody could be a secretary. It has to specifically state who they're giving permission to, and if they want to give it to multiple in one letter, that's fine. But it specifically has to list them out, and it has to be signed, it has to be on letterhead, and it has to be dated. So just keep that in mind. And if it's right, you can say the above information is correct and just keep going. The next is going to be a self-debarment verification. This is going to be another, like Edison. This is not our site. We have nothing to do with this website, but it is something that you do have to check. You can go to sam.gov, and if you don't know if you have an account, you can search city, county, entity. If you can't find one, go ahead and register. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you a unique entity identity number, and with that you can look it up and make sure that your organization is not showing up on the list as someone who cannot receive funds. This is something that audit requires. I do know that there are people at sam.gov that can help answer questions. I wish I could answer those for you, but I'm just going to be honest, I have no idea how that functions. But it is something that is a part of the system that you just have to upload proof that you're allowed to receive funds. This is just an example of what you can't have and then what you can have. And this is just showing the self-debarment tab within Smart Simple. And then kind of some steps. What if you only have a DUNS number? If you have a unique entity identifier number, but you're not registered. I know they did an update a year or two ago, and I think all the ones that were registered might have had, some of them had to get new ones. Work with sam.gov and they can definitely help you figure out what your status is. Another random reminder, save your work. All right, the last tab we have on here is our application summary tab. What this does is it has an application summary button. If you click this blue button, it's going to generate a PDF document of your entire application, including any documents that you uploaded. It's going to include all of your answers. It's going to include all of the questions. It's going to include pictures of your documents. And there is a signature line at the bottom of that. You'll need to sign, yes, this is what I'm submitting. Upload a copy of at least the signature page, and then you can submit your application. But this is very, very handy to keep on file, keep on hand. Just for your records, I know personally I would want to keep a copy of what I'm submitting so that I know what it is. Once all your tabs and fields are completed, you can submit your application. There's a submit button at the bottom. If there are any mandatory fields that were not completed, you're going to get an error message that pops up, and it's going to take you to that field of the information that's missing. So you cannot submit until that's done. So keep in mind, again, especially close to the end date, you want to try to make sure that all this is done before it's closing, because once it's closed, it is closed. All right, now we're at the point of if you receive a grant application, some post-grant award things that occur that I'd like to talk about just to give individuals a heads up. Again, we talked earlier about the My Applications and the Requires Attention section. What we're talking about now is the stuff that's in the bottom in that Requires Attention section. When you open up your grant application, if you've been awarded, you're going to see blue font on the front screen that's going to tell you how much money you received. You should have a copy of the awarded grant that has that, but it's also going to reflect how much you have remaining and how much you received on that front screen for you. Once it's been approved, there's going to be a third tab on the left-hand side that's going to pop up. It's called Activities, and this is where you're going to find any post-award things that you need to complete. Title VI Training Certification. This is a copy of the Title VI Training Certification document. The one on the right is the one that your Title VI coordinator has to fill out. And then there's just a small copy of a certificate of completion. I will say you only have to upload 2 certificates into the system. One has to be your Title VI coordinator, and then the other can just be anyone who's working on the grant. But you do need to keep copies of everybody else's on hand. I know for at least 5 years after your grant closes, audit can still come out and request to see copies of those. So just make sure you keep them on hand. If you want to go ahead and upload all of them, you can, but you don't have to. You only are required to upload 2 and then keep the rest on hand. Next is going to be about our reimbursements. So something to keep in mind for the reimbursement process, you need to have copies of any invoices you have, any canceled checks you might have, a complete budget worksheet, and any documentation that you might need to justify you asking for a reimbursement. So this is how you would open a reimbursement activity. So we're in the Activities tab. You can scroll over to the right, depending on how zoomed in your computer may be. You may have to click it a few times, but there's a tab that says Request for Grant Reimbursement. You'll click the blue box with the white plus sign, and it will open up a reimbursement activity for you. Once it's open, there's a button at the top that says Enter Expenditures. Oh, sorry. That's where you're actually going to enter in what you're requesting to get back. We will go over that here in just a minute. Next is going to be, there's a supporting documentation tab. That's where you would upload those invoices, canceled checks, any documentation that you have as justification would go there. There's also a certification tab that's certifying that all of the information is correct that you know of. You're going to put your name, title, and date. Once you're done, you're going to click submit, and then the information will go to Debbie, and she can review it. Grant amendments. So if you have your executed grant and you, for some reason, would like to make a change to it, it would be between you and Debbie if it can be done, but this is just something to keep in mind. You would need to talk with her about it first. But there is an activity in the system where you can actually go in and officially request an amendment or an extension. Again, you would need to talk with Debbie about that, but this is where you would officially request to have one. It would be through here. All right, I know that was a lot to go through very fast. Do y'all have any questions before I actually pull up the online portal? What you got?
For the Title VI, the LEP, the training program, and all that stuff, you said they have examples online on the GMS. Do they have templates where you kind of fill in the blanks? Because TDEC used to have that.
I believe so. If
Okay.
they're not in GMS, then they're on the Title VI website.
Okay.
But I believe there's a link in GMS to the Title VI website, if I remember correctly.
And just a quick Title VI follow-up. Will you all accept Title VI certificates from other agencies, state agencies?
I believe Rachel does.
Okay.
I
Because
can.
these mayors are doing them like 7, 8 times
Yeah.
a year.
I was gonna say, let me get with you before I leave, and I'll get your information,
Sure.
and I'll check with Rachel, our Title VI person, and get back with you. But I believe they do. What you got?
Will your presentation be available today?
Yes, I have sent it to Debbie, who's gonna get it to the ones who need it to be able to send it out. So yes. Any other questions? What you got?
Okay, so for the GMS, if you mentioned having an authorized person to sign on behalf of the
Mhm.
mayor, what about in order, like I work for a development district, would I have to get a letter from the mayor saying I authorize this employee to submit activities on the GMS? Can I submit activities?
If you're gonna be signing a reimbursement, that's an official type thing, you would need a signature for that. But if it's like a report maybe that needs to be done, or Title VI, anything like
Just
that, you'd
all
be
the
able to submit.
activities.
Yeah.
Typically, that's what I just do everything in the grant management
Yeah,
system for.
if you're submitting a reimbursement, I would say do it just to be safe.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Would you repeat again who is required to have the Title VI training?
Anyone who works for your organization, anyone and everyone. Yeah. If they're involved with helping out with the grant or anything like that, you just, and a lot of people will pull up the video and they'll have it a room with everyone from their organization and have everybody watch it at one time and have a list of everyone that completed it. And if you want to do that, that's perfectly fine. It gets everybody done all at once.
The point about that is working on, not just being a member of the organization, right?
Pardon me?
I said, the point there is that the certification for Title VI is required for people working on the grant, not just people who are members of an organization.
No, if the organization receives funds, everyone from that organization has to be Title VI certified.
Does that mean every city employee? Because I did this with the clean energy last time, and they said, no, just get your.
You don't
coordinator."
have to upload proof of everybody, but everyone from your organization has to be certified. It's a federal thing that we have to do. And I can get you guys in touch with our Title VI person if you would like, but that is a federal thing that we have to follow, is that anyone who receives funds from TDEC, the whole organization has to be Title VI certified. Like I said, the video is maybe 30 minutes long. Yes, sir?
Does Title VI apply to nonprofit organizations?
Yes. Anyone who receives funds.
What if the nonprofit is partnering with a governmental entity?
If they are working on a project with that entity that has received funds from TDEC, yes, they have to be certified.
Davis Bacon, I guess, on construction projects?
To the ones that applies to, there's an activity in GMS for that, to provide that information. But it's only on the specific ones that need it. And that's just letting me know that I'm emulating someone else's account. Which brings up a point that I want to make sure I point out. If you guys ever reach out to us to have us go in and look at something or fix something for you, when we emulate your account, it's going to historically track if we made a change on your behalf that we did that change. It'll say, you know, you changed it, but Jennifer did it for you. So just keep in mind, if that ever does happen, it does keep up with, the system keeps up with that. The first part I want to point out is this top section. Again, reiterates you need to affiliate with an organization. It's also going to show which organization you are currently showing at the time. So right now I'm under City of Sunshine, which is our tester account. Excuse me. Right now Savannah doesn't have any other organizations that she's affiliated with, so we're just going to stick with that one. If you want to submit an affiliation request, there is a how-to tutorial on there, so keep that in mind. If you get back to, you know, your desk and you're looking at it and say, okay, how do I do that again? There is a video that will walk you guys through that. But when you click on the submit affiliation request, it's going to be that same exact screen that I showed you guys just a little bit ago. You can click on the binoculars. That will let you search your organization. Again, if you're with the city or a county or a utility district, do not create a new account. We already have them in there for you. So I just typed in Sunshine because that's our tester. I'm going to select that. Again, if you don't find it, go ahead and click the Register New Organization. But if you do find it, you can click on it, enter your information, and click Submit. And then you can go back to your home screen. All right, these are My Application section. This is the one that I was talking about that shows your current applications. I know it shows Savannah has over 100. That's because this is our tester. Nobody has that many in our system. And then the second section is going to be all of the activities that we talked about, so all the post-award things. And then the left-hand side is going to show any and all open applications that we currently have for TDEC. So I'm going to go into the Oak Ridge one and click Apply Now. It's going to make sure that you all have permission to get the grant. You're going to click I accept or I do not accept. If you click I do not accept, it's going to automatically reject you. So just keep that in mind. It says now you can proceed to the application. You're going to proceed. And now we have the actual Oak Ridge application. So again, this top information is showing your application type, your ID. If you're ever reaching out to us or Debbie about your application, this application ID that right now starts with 2024, you're going to want to give us that number. That's going to help us pull it. It's kind of like your file number. That's the best way that I can put it. We do have the main tab on the left and the notes that we talked about. If you wanted to add a note in, you would just click the plus sign, and we're just going to put hi. It will say that you entered a note in. It's going to say it was an external note because you're an external user, but all of the history will be saved here in case you guys want to have that communication back and forth. All right, now to the application. The Purpose and Overview tab is the first tab that's showing up. It's going to list out all the information of the purpose of this grant, an overview of the grant, and as I said earlier, your application manual is on this first tab. So if you need a copy of it, you don't have a copy of it, if you click this button, it's going to open up a PDF, and then you can view the grant manual there. And this tab does have a lot of information. I know a lot of information can be very overwhelming, but I would definitely recommend reading through all of it, making sure you understand it before you proceed and go further. The next is going to be the funding tab. This is talking about the funding that's allowed, the match requirements, all of that information is going to be listed right here. Next, we're going to have the program contact. So that's Debbie's information. If you need anything in regards to questions about the actual application, if you send it to us, I'm going to send it to Debbie because we are not specialists on each thing. So if you do have questions about the actual grant, please reach out to Debbie or this ORR restoration@tn.gov, and they can help you out. The next tab is our Title VI compliance tab that I talked about just a little bit ago. It's going to ask, have you completed your Title VI compliance application? Yes, no, or not sure. If you say yes, a date field is going to pop up to ask when you completed it. If you select no, big red letters pop up saying contact us so we can get one open for you. The general information is where it's going to have your organization's contact information. Again, check that, make sure it's okay. I know a lot of times we have people reach out saying, hey, the phone number's wrong or the email address is wrong, so we have to go in and update that. So just make sure you're keeping an eye on that, because that is what will pull over to any awarded actual grants. Just some random questions that are on here. The application completed by information is going to be on here. Your project description, so who your project contact is, project details. There's a lot of different questions that are specific to this grant that you guys can answer. There is a little gray arrow, I know it's hard to see right now, that will take you to the additional tabs. The next is the budget and attachments. This is the worksheet I talked about just a few minutes ago. So you can enter in, if you wanted, say $50,000, then you would enter in your match, your professional fees. Whatever you're actually requesting is what you will enter into this budget worksheet. There's also a section a little bit further down where if you want to break down the line items, you can list that breakdown out as well. So once that's done, you just hit save. And then there's also an upload button. So if you have some sort of justification for your budget, I know Debbie talked about some in-kind information, you can upload all of that here. It will also, once you click save on the worksheet, you're going to have this table that populates, and that's just quickly showing you the information that you just entered into that worksheet, so you don't have to open it back up. If you need to make changes, you do have to open it back up, but just as a quick look, you can look here. We have the pre-proposal summary information, project summary information, project schedule, team, and appendices. The authorized signatory tab, this is what we talked about with the signatures. Self-debarment. And then you have that application summary, which will give you that one PDF document. There's also a tab on here that we include in all applications called current documents. So if you have any document that you need to upload and there's not a specific location for it, you can upload it here. So if there's some sort of email correspondence you have, anything like that, you can upload it into this section. And then once you get done with all that, you click submit. It's going to go over to Debbie and her team, and then they will go from there. So, any questions now that you've seen this? I know it's a lot to take in, but
this is a pretty elementary one here too, but just looking at this now, am I understanding correctly that you populate all this stuff through this application rather than saying a whole bunch of submitting supporting documents that are formatted in a particular way?
Right. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. It all goes through here, and this is what they generate and look at.
The manual talks about a 5-page narrative limit, but when you're going through this, how do you know how many pages?
So that would probably be in the one of the documents you have to upload in one of the fields. I don't know specifically which one that is, but if there was a required limit, then it would state that in the instructions.
It's the proper description.
One thing said 10,000 or 10,000 words, 10,000 characters, one of the fields.
You're saying in the manual it says that, or in here?
In the GMS.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, all the criteria that's in here is stuff that we were requested to build out.
If your organization had maybe more than one distinct project for consideration, would there be any advantage to submitting multiple pre-grant applications, or should they all just be done in one?
That's going to be a Debbie question. Hang on just a second.
Sure. Going back to the question about the limit, remember this is the pre-application, so we're not expecting an absolutely full description of everything that's going to be done. This is the first step. So once you get past this, there will be an expectation. Then if you have a much more in-depth explanation of what you're proposing, that will come at that second phase. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So is there a benefit to multiple
Any other questions while he's asking that to Debbie?
Just a quick question for clarification. Early on in Debbie's presentation, she talked about having a timeline of February 26th
Mm-hmm.
as a pre-proposal deadline, but then the manual and later on in her presentation it says February 6th.
It's February 6th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
I don't know where the 26th came from, but it is the 6th.
It was like in one of her first two slides it said
Okay.
26th.
Yeah, it is the 6th.
And like when I was started, just to remind you, that's for this first round. You know, once we've gone through this process once, we will open it up. And just so everybody remembers, there is a sign-in sheet, there's a place for your contact information. We really do encourage you to give us that, and the reason is we will announce when we're going through, like once we've gone through this first phase, then obviously we want to announce when we're getting ready to go through this process again, and we would love to be able to contact people and let them know about that.
How many rounds do you foresee having?
Until the $42 million is gone.
So it could be just one round?
No, the first round is only $10 million.
Over 10 million, okay.
Yeah, up to 10 million, so,
10 million.
yeah. Yeah, a total, all the grants for the first round, a total of $10 million. It is not required, but it is strongly encouraged that we, in the statute, that we don't give all this away at one time.
Okay.
That we do spread it out over time and over resources. You know, they really don't want you to just say like, oh, here's this one huge project, we're gonna fund it and we're gonna be done. No, the idea is to distribute the money.
Can multiple entities with multiple projects going on one application if they hit multiple selection criteria?
Glad you asked that. So yes, we are actually, one of the things we really do like to do is we like to encourage groups to leverage each other. And part of that reason is for instance, there's one group, some of you I can see are familiar with this website. This is the first time I've ever seen it, and it is daunting to me. So, you know, there are groups that are familiar with this, while at the same time, there are groups that may have great ideas about how to enhance natural resources, but have never done this. To me, that is an excellent opportunity for two groups to come together and leverage each other's skill set. So I would encourage everybody here, if you look around after the meeting, maybe talk to each other, say, what are you interested in doing, you know? Or reach out to other groups that you may know.
In that regard,
Yeah.
are you given extra credit if you are leveraging with other groups? Do you get more preference for that?
I wouldn't say more preference, but it is something that we do look at.
Are you ready to?
Yes, can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so first I want to go back to the question with regard to the number of characters or the length of pages for application. So if you look at the grant program manual, it specifically talks about what is required for the pre-proposal, and it discusses that. So that directly coordinates, like Jennifer said, with the fields that were built out in the grant management system. So that is consistent with that. So I do encourage you, when you're entering information in the grants management system, to also be looking at the grant program manual. That's why it is present there in the grants management system on that first page, so that you have access to it. So then the question that David typed in, if an organization has multiple distinct projects, is there a benefit to submitting multiple I would say pre-proposal applications. So I do think you could look at it that way. So you could do multiple distinct projects, but you would have to be really attentive to putting all of your details into your pre-proposal application, that including the budget, so that we would see assignment to those distinct projects within the whole. I would think that the benefit to submitting multiple pre-proposal for distinct projects is that those projects may be located in different HUC 12s that are listed in the manual. And so some of those may be priority, and you may have a better chance at getting one of your projects funded versus the whole.
Real quickly, going back to what we were just talking about, leveraging multiple groups, we've been requested, there is a group that is getting together, and Virginia's gonna tell you a little bit about that real quick.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. I'm Virginia Dale. I'm with Advocates for the Oak Ridge Reservation, which is a local group here. I'm also on the state board of the Nature Conservancy and the Sierra Club. And we are so excited that this is finally coming to fruition, and we thank the trustees for the work that they've done. The Black Oak Ridge Conservation Easement in Oak Ridge has been a wonderful asset to the community and to the environment, and we're looking forward. So what we have done is formed what we're calling a coalition of non-governmental organizations, NGOs across the state, and we want to support projects that provide and enhance recreational opportunities, as well as protect and improve environmental, cultural, and historical attributes of the East Tennessee region that we're talking about. So we have some example projects that we are supporting, such as long-term protection of Clark Center Park, better management and access to the Black Oak Ridge Conservation Easement, better access and boat ramps, trails, and signage related to the Pellissippi Blueway, dealing with invasive species in the Oak Ridge area, and water quality improvements, including things like improvements to wetlands or rain gardens. Those are the types of example projects. And we have 12 organizations that have signed on to this: Advocates for the Oak Ridge Reservation, Citizens for Wilderness Planning, 10 Green Land Conservancy, the Tennessee chapter of the Sierra Club, Legacy Parks, Southeastern Cave Conservancy, the Nature Conservancy of Tennessee, Oak Ridge Heritage and Preservation Association, Catalyst Sports, Tennessee States Park Conservancy, the Trust for Public Lands in Tennessee, and the Foundation for Global Sustainability. Anyway, we put this together because we would like to support these kinds of organizations. So I have a few pages of what this coalition is, and kind of formally making the announcement today, and we just want to make sure that this community of proposers supports these kinds of things. So let me know. I'll leave back on the table the copies that I have. My email address is virginia.dale4@gmail.com. So it's Dale, D as in dog, virginiadale4@gmail.com. So thank you for your efforts, and we'd like to support you. Any questions about that? Thank you, Roger, really appreciate that.
Any other questions? Yeah. Right here first.
Yeah, so I guess I still want to make sure I understand how the primary and secondary HUCs are going to be prioritized. That question I got asked a number of times, and the answer was, it's going to be in the scoring criteria, but when I take a look at, or the ranking criteria, when I look at the ranking criteria, I don't see anything in there that tells how primary or secondary HUC are going to be prioritized. And the reason I ask the question is because we have two projects almost identical, one's in a primary or one's in a secondary area, and I'm just trying to figure out how's that prioritization going to work? You mentioned it earlier, and I just don't, I'm not understanding in the ranking criteria how that falls out.
You're talking about make sure we're talking about the same thing. The map that showed the different colored areas and.
Yeah, in the manual, I'm talking about the geographic focus.
Yes,
We're
yes.
talking about primary
Yeah.
restoration
The-
hubs and secondary restoration hubs and how those are gonna be prioritized.
The NRD encourages the trustees to prioritize toward the proximity toward the area that was impacted, which in this case is mostly the Oak Ridge Reservation. Now, obviously, most of the reservation's owned by the federal government, and most folks won't have access to do projects there. So we had to expand, that's why we expanded it out. So really, it's the closer you are, at least for that one criteria as far as the geographical location, the closer you are to the reservation, the higher that project would be prioritized. And so a HUC that is either on the reservation or is immediately adjacent to it would get a little higher. Is that what you're asking? I'm not sure I'm answering your question.
No, I don't think you are, and I
Okay.
guess maybe we'll come back and ask it
Okay.
later, but the reality is.
Oh, Debbie's gonna answer your question. Okay. Sorry.
No worries.
So Roger, you're correct in what you're talking about as far as the primary versus secondary packs. That information's not listed in the program manual within the criteria. If you will look at the geographic focus area section, it talks about how those are prioritized in bulleted form. There's also a response to a public comment we had on the primary and secondary HUCs that's listed in Appendix A of the grant program manual.
Yeah, I've read that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
I think the question there is, how does that get applied in ranking in ranking projects? Is there a specific weight for the geographic primary versus secondary, or is there, how's that factored into the scoring?
We try to make the scoring process as objective as possible. You know, where in an ideal world, you'd be able to look at a project and say exactly, okay, that is a 87, that one's an 88, and give it a score like that. But for very obvious reasons, when you're looking at two projects that are one's addressing recreational aspects and another is addressing possibly enhancement of groundwater, it is extremely difficult it's apples and oranges, and so it becomes very subjective. And while we try as hard as we could to come up with an objective saying, like, if you're exactly this distance from some epicenter on the reservation, you'll get this score, and if you're further away, you'll get a lower score. But it doesn't really, that is unfortunately not really, that's not something you can really execute. So it is somewhat subjective in that we do look at, we look at the geographical locations, we use the as Debbie pointed out, the list that's in the plan, but that is also why we have a trustee council to discuss these things and evaluate ranking. There's a very good possibility there may be a project that comes in that scores really high on everything except for its proximity to the reservation. And then there may be another project that comes in that's very close to the reservation, it's very poor. Well, we may end up selecting the one that's a little further away just because it gives more bang for the buck as far as the lift and the value of the resources and other criteria. So.
I think that's my question.
Okay. Yes.
So if a group of entities go in together on one application and they only get a portion of that funded, can they come back the next year and request the remainder?
That is a Debbie. Debbie, did you hear that one?
Can you repeat that?
His question is, if a application comes in and it only receives a portion of its funding, can that group or set of groups come back next year and apply for the balance of the their request.
Yes, so you'll notice that there's a reservation in the grant program manual where we say that TDEC, with consent of the trustees, reserves the right to fund all or none of the proposals received and to fund partial projects.
Right.
So that is what I think we would consider, if we funded a partial project and that group wanted to come back with the remainder of their project in the next go around, we would certainly consider that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Could a project be funded under multiple phases of awards? Say you've got a bigger project that, you know, you can't get under the $10 million cap. Can you get a start in 1 year, in one phase, and then another piece in the next phase, and a final piece in a third phase?
Yes, that sort of goes to what that previous question is, yes.
So if that was what somebody was proposing, would they be better off to go ahead and spell out, I'm just making an idea, I got a $10 million project, and I'd like to get $2.5 million 4 times.
Yeah.
So I want you to see the whole big picture, only applying for the first $2.5 million, I'm just making up numbers.
Yes, I think that would be very beneficial to spell out your entire roadmap of where you see yourself going as far as your group. Because here's the thing, say you have a multi-phased project, and the first phase of the project may be the most expensive, but it may not really give you as much lift of the resources you want. But if you can demonstrate that through multiple phases, you're going to get a really huge lift in the end. That is something that the trustees really need to know. You know, it really does help us in our evaluation of the applications. Yes.
One slide mentioned the invitation to apply to submit the full application would be early spring, and then the deadline would be late spring. Can you give a little better idea of how much time would actually be available to develop that full application if you're invited to do so? Would it be 2 weeks, 2 months?
Debbie, did you hear that one? The question is, after the pre-proposals are received, how much time is there before if your pre-proposal is accepted, how much time before the final proposal do they have to put that together?
So we can work with people a little bit on that, like we have with the surface water NRD restoration program that I run. So generally what we do on those is if you have a pre-proposal that we invite to a full proposal, what we would do before we invite everybody to full proposals, the trustees are probably going to have a discussion with all of you, and we may visit your site as well to talk about how long is reasonable for you to have to submit a full proposal. Because remember, one thing that we're really looking to do is we're looking to create a restoration plan to make available for public review. And our goal is to restore resources as soon as possible. But, you know, we're going to be fair about that. We're going to have a conversation with all of you that we invite to full proposal, and probably look at your site as well.
Do you need a resolution committing local funds with the pre-proposal, or that come with the full proposal?
You're talking about the 20% match?
Yeah.
I think you have to demonstrate is that right, Debbie? You have to demonstrate the 20% match with the pre-proposal?
Correct. It has to be in your budget.
Right.
And there's also a tab to attach letters of commitment.
Okay. But you don't need a resolution from a city council or county commission at that point, or with a letter from the mayor stating, hey, we'll commit the local match if we're invited to submit a full proposal. Would that suffice for the purpose of a pre-application?
No.
No?
I don't know that I can answer that one.
It's that way with ARC, which is why I was wondering, because
I
they
do
have a
not know.
pre-proposal as well, Nicole.
Yeah, we're gonna.
I would suggest you send Debbie an email.
Writing, yeah.
And ask her about it, and she can look into that one more deeply. Any other questions?
I
So-
have a weird one. Here in Virginia's list, I've heard so many people talk about so many of those, use Clark Park.
Yeah.
I mean, people have been talking about preserving, enhancing, whatever, Clark Park for a long time. What's gonna happen if 5 different organizations, I mean, I think the idea of coalition's great, but what if that doesn't happen and 5 different people all submit similar applications for similar projects? Will there be an attempt to get those people to work together? Will
Yes.
they, I mean, just.
Yeah, there would be I mean, it's, there, for lack of a better term, there is strength in numbers always. And so, yeah, we would probably encourage those groups to really encourage. And then if they won't, we will step back and we will look at which group, if we still think that is a viable project, we will step back and look at which group has based on the applications, which one we think has the best chance of executing that work. Yes.
It sounds then like the onus is on the individual organizations to work amongst themselves primarily.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we cannot force you to do that. We can encourage you, but no, we cannot.
Rather than some level of like coordination on the part of the people giving out the funding later. Like there's, I'm phrasing that poorly. But it's on the people to organize themselves rather than, you know, the
Yes.
person giving out, or the organization giving out the funding, being like, so here's how y'all can make all this come together.
We will try to give you as much positive feedback as we can, but the onus is on the applicants. Yeah. Any other? So the one thing I kept hearing during, and I'm not trying to throw her under the bus, but Jennifer's presentation, the thing she kept saying is, call us, contact us. She gave emails, phone numbers. That is what they're there for. And they do this all the time. Don't think any question's stupid. They're all good questions. This is not, because of federal regulations and state laws and things like that, there are lots of little things that have to be checked off. And we don't want you to submit a really good proposal and get to the end and find out we didn't do that, and we have to say, you can't have it. We really do, we want everybody to be successful at this. This, as I've said in some of the earlier meetings, first understand, please, this is not a DOE-led effort at this point. This is the trustee council is the one in the states doing a lot of the legwork. But when was the last time you heard DOE say, we want to give away $42 million? You do not hear that very often. And you will not hear that again soon. So we take advantage of it. This money's out there. We want it to be used for this. So, yes.
You keep talking about the budgets. We're a month in from the announcement of this grant program. Some of the projects are going to need to sharpen up that pencil
Yes.
twice to get a final number. So with the pre-application, is it okay if we have a WAG looking at getting to a swag?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's, and yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also remember, like we said earlier, this first go-round, our self-imposed limit is $10 million. There are going to be additional, rounds of applications. So, I really do hope there aren't projects that are that time sensitive. I'm hoping that even if you can't get your application in this year, the next go-around you can get it in and maybe make it more complete. So.
Do you know how many rounds you'll have? Unless we can ask.
It's until the 42 million. Well, actually, so this is also important to understand. The state is holding the money. They actually hold it in an account that earns interest. So
does the interest go into the?
Yes, it does.
All
And
right.
so it's until that money is gone.
So is it more than 42 right now?
I doubt it. It hasn't been it has not been sitting there that long. Although the market has done well. So,
That's crypto.
yeah. But yeah, it is until the money is gone.
And do you know how far apart the rounds will be?
We do not. I don't think we've agreed on that yet. Any others?
There are
Yes.
multiple people that want to do the same project and we don't know that that's what we're doing.
Uh-huh.
Are you going to contact us and say, hey, you need to talk to me about it?
We've discussed that. I think, I can't say that we absolutely will.
Okay.
But I think we will try to make an effort to, especially if it's a really good quality project, we probably look to try to connect the right people together.
Thank you.
Any other questions?